Our film begins with Daryl, a college student who is responsible for giving incoming freshmen guided tours of his university. He gets paid for these tours, and he absolutely needs every single dollar he can get because he is the sole provider for his mother and sibling. Among his various gigs on campus, he also delivers packages to different departments. During one of his tours, he has to deliver a package to a professor in the neuropsychology department. When Daryl enters the laboratory, he finds Dr. Whedon, who is conducting experiments on animals. One of the doctor's experiments includes a mouse that literally glows in the dark. After delivering the package, Daryl returns to his group to finish the tour, wrapping it up quickly so he can take on the next group of students. By the end of the day, he heads back to his dorm completely exhausted. Suddenly, his mother calls to check on him and asks about his interview at the stock brokerage firm, just as he had previously told her. She encourages him, saying that he is striving hard and is destined to work in the field he loves while making better money. However, she then asks him for money to pay the gas bill before they cut it off. Daryl adds this bill to his mounting expenses, calculating that his total debt has now reached exactly $2,774. Before hanging up, he reassures her that he is the ideal candidate for the brokerage job and tells her not to worry. Right after putting the phone down, he gets a call from the university's tuition office because his latest payment is overdue. Desperate to get the clerk off his back, Daryl mimics his mother's voice over the phone, claiming that Daryl has tragically passed away and won't be paying tuition anymore, forcing the woman to hang up. The next day, Daryl is searching for any legal way to make quick cash. He visits a blood donation center that pays donors for their blood. However, a large sign clearly states that donors are only permitted to give blood once a month. Ignoring the rules, Daryl decides to donate multiple times in a single day. He disguises his facial features, changes his clothes, alters his name, and keeps donating until he completely faints from sheer exhaustion. Later, he goes to a barber shop attempting to sell his hair to be made into wigs, but the barber refuses to buy it because it is too short to be of any use. Daryl also works serving food at the university cafeteria, where he encounters Scott, his arrogant classmate. Scott is also applying for the exact same stock brokerage position and is Daryl's primary rival. Scott brags that the job is practically his, boasting that no better candidate could possibly apply, especially since he is the student union president and his father is the manager of the third largest bank in the city. Daryl pays no attention to Scott's bragging because he is hyper-focused on Janice, a classmate he deeply admires but lacks the courage to confess his feelings to. Later, an orientation meeting is held for the students applying to the brokerage firm. Mr. Ronald, the CEO of the company Daryl dreams of joining, addresses the crowd. He announces that every year, the firm selects only one student to become a junior analyst, a position Daryl desperately desires. Afterward, Daryl approaches the hockey coach, begging for a chance to play on the team, as participating in sports would boost his academic credits. He asks his friend Tim to recommend him to the coach so he can join them on the ice. He gets put in as the goaltender, but he turns out to be absolutely terrible at the game. After finishing the game, Daryl accidentally notices an advertisement posted on campus by Dr. Whedon, who is looking for human clinical trial participants in exchange for a generous amount of cash. He heads straight to the lab to check it out. The doctor's assistant addresses the volunteers, explaining that the experimental drug has never been tested on humans before, only on mice, and none of them died. She warns them about potential side effects, including nausea, severe headaches, and other dangerous complications. Upon hearing this, every single volunteer in the room gets up and walks out, except for Daryl, who has completely fallen asleep and missed the entire warning. Consequently, he blindly signs up for the experiment. He meets Dr. Whedon, who explains that the drug is designed to enhance the human senses, making them 10 times stronger than normal. The doctor strictly warns him about the precise method of dosage. He must inject exactly 6 milliliters of the fluid every single night before bed, and under no circumstances should he exceed that amount. He promises Daryl a payout of $3,000 once the trial concludes. Handed the serum, an ecstatic Daryl agrees to all the terms. Afterward, he heads over to a party hosted at the campus country club, hoping to network and join, but he runs into Scott. As usual, Scott mocks him and has him thrown out of the party since he isn't a registered club member. Daryl returns home and notices the experimental serum literally glowing inside his bag. He injects his first dose and goes to sleep, preparing for a crucial placement exam the following day. The next morning, Daryl realizes something is wildly wrong. His surroundings are overwhelming. Environmental sounds are massively amplified. He can loudly hear the scratching of pencils on exam papers and the ticking of second hands on wristwatches all over the hall. Furthermore, all the scents in the room overlap aggressively, completely shattering his ability to focus. Overwhelmed, he suddenly snaps, picking fights with the students around him until the professor kicks him out of the exam room. Daryl rushes back to Dr. Whedon, panicking and complaining that his skin is severely itching and burning. The doctor reassures him that this is simply a natural reaction to the formula, promising it will pass once his body adapts to his superhuman senses. Daryl returns home to train his heightened senses. He soon discovers he has been disqualified from the initial candidate shortlist due to his exam outburst. He works tirelessly to master his new abilities, learning to control them just as the doctor suggests. suggested. Later, the university hosts an exclusive gala for the final 5 shortlisted candidates, and Daryl is forced to work the event as a waiter. Looking miserable that his life's dream has slipped away, he approaches Mr. Ronald to introduce himself. Surprisingly, Mr. Ronald remembers him from his introductory lecture. While serving food and drinks, Daryl eavesdrops on Mr. Ronald and Scott from a distance, using his super hearing to listen to their specific conversation topic. He loops back, seamlessly inserts himself into the discussion, and showcases incredible intellect, deeply impressing the CEO. Spotting a stock market magazine sitting far across the room, Daryl uses his eagle-like supervision to read the charts from a distance. He tells Mr. Ronald that he has completely memorized every single company's stock data. The guests put him to the test, and Daryl passes flawlessly. Blown away by his brilliance, Mr. Ronald officially names Daryl the 6th finalist of the evening. Daryl visits Dr. Whedon to thank him for the miracle serum. After running a few tests, the doctor is thrilled with the results but reiterates a stern warning: overusing the drug will cause a catastrophic reverse reaction, adding that an addiction to power is the beginning of self-destruction. The next day, Daryl attends another party at the campus club because he knows Mr. Ronald will be there. Scott attempts to throw him out just like last time, but Mr. Ronald intervenes, revealing Daryl is now an honorary member, and officially grants him membership. While at the party, Daryl spots his crush, Janice, heading into the restroom to touch up her makeup. Using his super hearing, he listens in and discovers she is looking for her dream guy and finds none of the men at the party appealing. He waits for her to exit, and when she decides to leave the party, he offers to drive her home. During the drive, he paints himself as an ambitious, self-made young man, thoroughly charming Janice. By the time they reach her house, she agrees to go out on a proper date with him the following day. The next morning, Daryl returns to the hockey coach, asking for a second chance. Utilizing his superhuman sight and hearing, he effortlessly blocks every single puck fired at him. The coach is absolutely stunned by his performance and starts him in the University League's first official match, where Daryl single-handedly carries the team to their first victory. The following day, Daryl attends a finalist meeting with Mr. Ronald. Using his advanced hearing, he intercepts the topics Mr. Ronald loves to discuss, allowing him to research them and perfectly tailor his answers. When Daryl meets the CEO, his seemingly limitless knowledge completely wins him over. Mr. Ronald hands him front-row basketball tickets, noting that a senior board member will be present and advising Daryl to impress him, as it will guarantee his hiring. That night, Daryl sets up a romantic dinner for Janice at his apartment. They have a wonderful time, and he takes the opportunity to introduce her to his mother and family, explaining that he supports them financially. Meanwhile, Daryl continues taking the serum. His friend Tim catches him taking the pills and mistakenly assumes Daryl is abusing illegal drugs, leaving Tim incredibly upset. Greedy for even more power, Daryl takes it upon himself to double his dosage. The next morning, Daryl wakes up to a disaster. His vision is heavily blurred and the entire right side of his body is completely paralyzed. He rushes to Dr. Whedon, who breaks the terrible news. Because of the overdose, his 5 senses are malfunctioning, leaving him with only 4 operational senses at any given time. The senses will constantly cycle randomly, one returning while another completely vanishes, until the chemicals fully leave his system, a process that will take roughly 3 days. The doctor orders him to stay in bed, but Daryl refuses to listen because he has the crucial basketball game to attend with Mr. Ronald. When he arrives at the game, Mr. Ronald is seated with the executives who will decide on the final hire. Daryl gets up to grab them drinks, but on his way back, his vision completely cuts out. Blindly stumbling around, instead of returning to his seat, he accidentally sits on the team bench and starts aggressively insulting the home players until security handles him. Mr. Ronald is deeply embarrassed and frustrated, warning Daryl that he better be at 100% capacity for the upcoming championship hockey match and never repeat today's disaster. Daryl returns home, and Janice's colleague comes to visit him and starts making moves on him. But right at that moment, the chemical reacts, causing Daryl to completely freeze up, rendering him unable to move or speak due to the drug's side effects. Because he can't move his body, the colleague completely misinterprets his sudden unresponsiveness, thinks he doesn't want her, and leaves. On her way out, Janice, who is arriving at the apartment to visit him because she likes him and wants to get closer to him, encounters her own colleague leaving. Misinterpreting the situation, Janice immediately assumes that Daryl has cheated on her. In a fit of rage, she storms in, strikes his body as punishment for the perceived betrayal, and leaves, leaving Daryl completely paralyzed on the floor until the next day. The following day is the big hockey championship. Standing in front of the goal, Daryl's vision completely vanishes once again. Instead of blocking the opposing team's shots, he turns and brutally attacks his own teammates, even standing completely behind the goal rather than in front of it, turning the match into a total circus. Desperate to fix his crumbling life, the first thing Daryl tries to salvage is his relationship with Janice. He goes to her apartment, where Mr. Ronald suddenly answers the door. Because Daryl is still completely blind, he mistakes the CEO for Janice. He begins pouring his heart out, confessing his deep love and insisting he cannot live without her, even trying to forcefully hug Mr. Ronald. Janice suddenly steps out of the bathroom just as Daryl's vision snaps back. Confused as to why his potential boss is at her apartment, Janice reveals that Mr. Ronald is actually her father. She takes Daryl outside the apartment, furious and heartbroken, telling him she felt deceived because she thought he was different from other guys and genuinely admired his ambition. Daryl begs her to believe him, explaining his life is completely upside down right now and promising things will get better soon, but she refuses to listen, leaves him alone, and locks herself inside. The next day is the final corporate board examination for Daryl and the other 5 candidates. With nowhere else to turn, Daryl visits his friend Tim, begging him to help him study. The two cram all night at a local bar. Meanwhile, Scott turns to his wealthy father, who hires a team of elite industry experts to tutor him through the night. Both candidates give it their all, but while Daryl focuses harder than ever before, Scott remains arrogant, convinced he is superior to everyone else. In the morning, everyone heads to the exam center. On his way to the corporate headquarters, Daryl's vision goes completely dark again. He stumbles blindly through the streets, bumping into pedestrians. He accidentally collides with a pickpocket, who realizes Daryl is blind, beats him up, and steals his entire suit, leaving Daryl stranded in nothing but his socks. Groping around in the dark, Daryl stumbles into a thrift store. Pulling a hidden $50 bill out of his sock, he begs the shopkeeper for any suit available. The man hands him a bizarre, brightly colored suit. Daryl rushes into the corporate restroom, and with no other option, enters the examination hall wearing the ridiculous outfit. The final exam takes place in a grand auditorium. Daryl's mother is in the audience to support him. While the other 5 candidates sit perfectly poised in classic black suits, Daryl sits there in his loud, multicolored clothing. The testing begins, and the questions are incredibly brutal, knocking out the candidates one by one. Finally, a highly complex question is asked, and Daryl steps up, answers it flawlessly, and wins the examination, securing the job. However, at his moment of triumph, Daryl's conscience catches up to him, and he decides to confess the absolute truth. He publicly admits that he used an experimental drug to cheat his way through the earlier stages of the selection process, though he clarifies that his answers on this final exam were entirely the result of his own hard work, long nights, and intense studying. The board of directors immediately holds a private meeting and decides to disqualify him and revoke the job offer entirely. However, Mr. Ronald approaches Daryl privately. He reveals that when he first started out in his career, he actually began in the corporate mailroom. He reassures Daryl that if he maintains this incredible work ethic and honesty, he will easily become a full analyst in less than a year, officially offering him a well-paying job in the mailroom. Daryl and his family celebrate, overjoyed that he has secured a foot in the door at the firm. A year later, a celebration is held at the company to honor Daryl's official promotion to a full market analyst, exactly as he had always dreamed. Standing right by his side is his loving girlfriend, Janice, who supported him with all her heart because she truly loved him for who he was.